Trina, welcome back up here.
Lisa, do you know if these monitors will work or not?
Oh yeah, just turn them on.
I did, and it just says no signal.
Mine didn't, mine just turned it off.
I'll check a couple things back there and see if I can find out what's going on.
They're either muted or have radio.
Oh, it's video. Oh, wow.
I can mute. So now it shows muted, but you can still sound.
So can like anybody else unmute themselves?
Yeah, everyone can unmute themselves, and then as a host, we can mute anybody.
Okay.
Good, Lisa? All right, I have 6:32. I'm Mayor Tome here to call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council. It's our regular meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. Before we start, again, we are integrating video conferencing and phone conferencing into our meetings to try to minimize the number of people that we have in this room. So the Zoom link has been posted with our agendas for the evening, as well as the information for citizen comment, etc. With that, Pat, could you please take a roll call for us?
Gray.
Present.
McCabe.
Here.
Piperone.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Tome.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda. Unless there's any alterations or deletions, take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Alder Piperone, I will approve the agenda. I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on that motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. We'll move on to correspondence and communications. Pat, did we have anyone signed up back there for in person? Thank you. We have Prudence from 442 West James Street here to talk about the pool. If you could have Prudence please come up and turn on the microphone. You'll probably want to bend that down for her a little bit. There's the talkie face button on the control panel there. Little face. Yeah.
I think that the pool should be open because it brings our community together to gather and stay active. As an 8-year-old resident, the last 2 months have been hard for me. Please do not rob me of my childhood or summer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Prudence. Since this is citizen comment, we can't really discuss this, but tonight on the agenda in the committee of the whole, there will be a lot of discussion about rec programs and the pool, so you're aware. Thank you for coming in. All right, that's the only person we had signed up in the chambers. Was there anyone else present this evening that wished to sign up for citizen comment that did not get the opportunity to do so? Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that called in to participate for citizen comment? I see.
Heather Stanton.
Go ahead, Heather.
I am for the pool reopening, but I do have 2 questions just that might be addressed. I just don't know the content that they'll be speaking to. One question was whether there'll be confidential information collected so that in the event that someone does test positive, that a notification and contact tracing can happen. And then the second is more around restrictions on who can attend the pool. And I don't weigh in one side or the other. I guess I'm just looking for there to be discussion around whether there might be age restrictions for small children who wouldn't be able to distance. And as well as, I guess I've seen a little bit on social media where people are looking for someone to define what local means in order to keep the population at the pool limited and local, just to keep the spread of COVID down. So those are my essentially 2 questions.
All right, thank you, Heather. I've written down your questions here, and I'll bring those up during discussion at the committee of the whole. Thank you. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak under citizen comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda for this evening. The consent agenda, we have 3 items. We have the council and committee of the whole minutes for the May 19th meeting and the special committee of the whole meeting for May 21st. Any changes or edits on the minutes? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Alder Ryan, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, or as stated, rather.
McCabe, seconds.
All right, we have a motion from Ryan, second McCabe, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to new business item number 1, which is consider and take action on an address update for the Aquatic Center. This was discussed previously at our committee of the whole meeting, trying to address the concerns of having Fireman's Park being one complete address and having pool deliveries left at the Rest Haven building and the pavilion. So I believe the suggestion here from the clerk was that we used the address of 250 Folsom Street, so the address would be an extension of Folsom instead of the park. So I believe what staff is looking for is just to go ahead, and then this can all be taken care of internally between the clerk and the post office. Any questions on this? If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to take action on the address update.
Reed will motion to change the address for the Columbus Area Aquatic Center to, now I lost it, 250 Folsom Avenue.
Is Is it street or avenue? We don't want to change
Fol-
that.
250 Folsom Ave, sorry, 250 Folsom Street. I keep wanting to say the avenue.
Okay.
Piper will second that.
All right, we have a motion by Reed, second by Piperone, to update the address of the Aquatic Center to 250 Folsom Street. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to item number 2, which is consider and take action on the draft state municipal agreement. My understanding is that staff did review this and there were no concerns that were shared from staff. This is an integral part of the DOT grant that we received for the Hibbard Street project for $450,000. This needs to be approved by us to keep things moving forward. If there's any questions, we've got Matt available, we've got Zach available, and we've got Kyle. It seems pretty straightforward. Are there any questions? I see none. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the draft state municipal agreement.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion to approve the draft state municipal agreement.
McCabe seconds.
Motion from Ryan, second to McCabe, from McCabe to approve the draft state municipal agreement for the local roads improvement LRIP program for 2020-2021. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could we please take a roll call on that, Pat?
McCabe. Aye. Piperone.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Ryan.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Consider and take action on a recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve a conditional use permit for a home occupation at 556 Waterloo Street. This was reviewed by the Plan Commission as stated. Those recommendations come directly to the regular meeting for action. There's quite a bit of information that was put into the packet. We have Matt Schreiber with us if there's any questions about the information that's in here, but it looks like the recommendation of the Plan Commission was that they made the recommendation to council that the applicant shall meet the requirements of 114-106 for a home-based business. Firearms must be kept in a safe or other secure location at all times. A security system must be maintained for the premises, and the applicant can hold no more than 5 firearms waiting for pickup at any given time. This would be involving someone who is doing Ammo Box LLC, which sells firearms and related accessories online, but it doesn't sound like they're planning on having an inventory at their residence. This will all be drop shipped. So if there are any other concerns that weren't addressed by the Plan Commission, now's the time to ask them. Trina?
I guess I'm just really disappointed this didn't come to us for the committee of the whole to have this out in front of the public earlier. I really feel like having a residential neighborhood gun shop is a bit of a contentious business. It's not someone selling crafts on Etsy. I mean, I understand the process has been done properly, but I really feel like this is akin to, you know, just bringing an adult business into the neighborhood. It's a little questionable, and I'm thinking about property values, and if I was looking for a place and saw the sign for the business, I would look in another neighborhood. My other thing I noticed was that this is supposed to be for internet sales, but there would likely be local business for customers coming and picking up what they've ordered. And also, I could have sworn I saw a spot of for possible firearm repair with people coming and going. So I'm just a little concerned.
Matt, did you want to add anything?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'm having trouble hearing that my home computer doesn't have a microphone, so I'm using the speaker on my cell phone. So I guess I'll just address the fact that Plan Commission reviewed this thoroughly. There was a lot of discussion when we created, or when Plan Commission created the conditions on top of the standard conditions for a home occupancy permit. Quite frankly, the way our code reads, he is permitted as long as he can meet the 12 requirements that were listed under 114-106. He's shown no reason why he can't meet those conditions. And I get that there's some concern over the type of business, but per our code, there's not much that we could do other than what Plan Commission has recommended. So.
And the last thing I noticed, I'm looking at the letter from the applicants, for the people that own the property that seems like they're in California. The last sentence of their letter is the tenant will not be allowed to store inventory in or on the property. And for us giving him permission for up to 5 units, it's a little off.
That would be between the tenant and landlord. I mean, that's something that, I mean, you're right, we can ask the landlord how he feels, but I mean, ultimately, that's not a city issue with what the application was.
Matt, was there a requirement my understanding is that the person who's opening the business is renting this from someone. They don't own the home. Is that correct?
Correct.
So
he's a tenant.
So they needed to get permission from the owner of the home to have the retail conditional use there.
Correct.
I think what Trina's looking at is in their letter, the last sentence says the tenant will not be allowed to store inventory in or on the property. So it seems like that's the consent that the landowner is giving to the applicant here. I think, is that what you're trying to? Okay. The other question I'll ask you, Matt, as well, on the general submittal list, there's a list of property owners, which I'm assuming are all neighbors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people here, I believe. Were these people, was there an obligation to notify those property owners of the conditional use permit? Were they sent?
They were.
Okay.
As part of our notification process, we do a Class 1 notice in the newspaper, and we notify all adjacent and abutting property owners. So basically, everybody, you just draw, everybody. It'd probably be clearer when we revise our zoning code to say everybody within 200 feet, but I think it says adjacent and abutting property owners.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Attorney Johnson, since he's on there as well, pertaining to Trina's concern that if the consent was not given of the property owner to allow for inventory, can that be a restriction that's placed on the conditional use with approval tonight?
I think that you have the ability to place additional restrictions on the conditional use permit if you like. You also have the ability to refer this back to committee of the whole, if you like, for further review. Your standard procedure is to have the Plan Commission recommendations regarding conditional use permits go straight to council. That's been how it's been done for many, many years. But if it's the vote of the council, you can refer it back to committee of the whole or back to the Plan Commission for further review if you wish. The landlord's letter, if I can find it now. I agree with Matt. That is a landlord-tenant issue more than anything else. The home occupancy or the request that they're making here is not 100% dependent on the landlord's consent. It's very nice to have the landlord's consent, but that's not a firm requirement as set forth in your code.
I guess I'll ask, what is the will of the council this evening? Do you want to discuss this further? Are there other concerns that you feel like you need to discuss further before taking the recommendation of the Plan Commission or approving anything this evening, or discussing further restrictions than the recommendation provided.
Alder Gray, I would prefer to discuss this further at a committee of the whole before moving forward. There's concerns. I echo a lot of Trina's concerns, and I think additional restrictions may be prudent on our behalf. And I would have liked to see more about this prior to it coming straight to council. I understand it's standard practice for us, but in this situation, I think we should take further time to review it.
Matt, can I ask if the business, or was the applicant present at the at your plan commission meeting?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
And I told him this needed approval by the council, and I told him the date. I do not see him on the phone
Okay.
or on Zoom. I assume he's not at City Hall.
I assume that as well. Trina, are you okay with further discussion at a committee of the whole?
I would strongly prefer further discussion at committee of the whole.
Okay, I've got Ian and Trina that are looking in that direction.
I'd be okay with further discussion as well.
Paul and Mike, are you okay with additional conversation?
Yes.
Okay. We will table this to the next committee of the whole.
Mayor,
Oh, sorry.
if you're going to do that, it would be preferable to make a motion to refer it back to the committee of the whole
Okay.
instead of tabling it.
Okay. Someone like to make that motion?
Sure. Reed will make a motion to refer the conditional use permit process back to committee of the whole.
McCabe seconds.
And we've got a motion in 2 seconds to refer the recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve the CUP for a home occupation at 556 Waterloo Street. Motion in a second to refer that back to the committee of the whole for further discussion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll take that up at the next committee of the whole meeting. Thank you. Item number 4. Consider and take action to name the recreation area Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park on River Road. This is a project we've been discussing for quite some time. It is a recreation area down on River Road near the wastewater treatment plant. We have a partnership with the Oddfellows organization that's going to be putting a butterfly garden in there and some other features hopefully this year. There was a list of names that were submitted by residents, and the council came to a consensus at the last meeting that we thought Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park sounded good. So hopefully there's no further discussion on that. Oh, the name was a combination of entries from Taryn Michael and Winfield McDonald. So thanks for all your submissions. We had 27 entries into that contest. So if there's no further discussion on that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the name of the recreation area.
Alder Piperone, I will make a motion to approve the name of the recreation area to be Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park on River Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the name of the recreation area to Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park out on River Road. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item then is to consider and take action on the city claims in the amount of $274,637.30. Are there any questions on the claims? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the city claims in the amount read.
McCabe makes a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $274,637.30.
Ryan, second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims in the amount of $274,637.30. Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, can we please take a roll call, Pat?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Piperone.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Move on to report of city officers. I'm going to give the floor over to Administrator Ellison. I don't have much this evening, so it's all yours, Kyle.
All right, thank you. Just a couple quick items. Number one is the finance director that we've been recruiting for. We didn't receive the amount of applicants that we were hoping for, and so we did extend that deadline by another 10 days or so. The new deadline is June 7th. We did refresh the postings. I did a video announcement as well that we've tried to share on social media, and hopefully that will get some more interest in it. There was a holiday weekend in there as well, which may have kind of slowed down some of the interest, but we're hopeful that the next round will have enough people to consider it a successful recruitment and move on to the next stages. Also, as everything keeps changing with the pandemic and low cases, high cases, and different information out there, I just wanted to let everyone know we're continuing to monitor the conditions related to the pandemic, and as we evaluate daily operations and some of these other issues that we have related to recreation and parks and city facilities, we're ready to move in whatever direction is necessary, sort of based on the circumstances changing. So just know that we're continuing to monitor that. And then also, in a related item, for large public events, we've instituted the additional information request for all applicants. So we're looking for information on the scope of the event and then any methods or means that they're going to institute in their event to meet the CDC guidelines or Department of Health Services guidelines, and so that we can get a full evaluation of those events and if the activities that they're proposing kind of match up with the goals of the general public welfare and safety. The last thing is we got some money today. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities Insurance Company hand-delivered a check for $5,555, and it would have been more, but it was a partial year policy. So if we had a full year under our belt, it would have been significantly more, but it's a good amount of money to be returned for the insurance policy. And in my experience, the league insurance is pretty high quality insurance, and they do well with customer service. So I think that all wraps up to be a pretty good deal. And that's all I had.
Most of you already know the City of Columbus kicked off a long-range planning process starting in 2018 in support of a strategy for investment in the city's major public facilities known as Roadmap 2050. A citizen engagement team created in 2018 helped the city lead community discussions in 2019, including focus group discussions, a public survey, as well as a large community potluck meeting. Our consultants with MSA Professional Services evaluated each of our major facilities and the services we offer from those sites, including City Hall, the Senior Center, the Community Center, the Public Library, the Annex, the Police Station, Fire Station, and Public Works. MSA also evaluated our short-term and long-term fiscal conditions and have been working with city staff and city council to draft a plan for an investment in these facilities over the next 30 years. It's now time for the community to see the draft and to offer feedback. I urge you to visit the city website. There are a lot of documents that are posted there. The executive summary is probably a good place to start if you're just kind of digging in at this point. There's an online survey tool on that page where you can ask questions and provide comments. This will be available through the month of June. On Tuesday, June 9th, there will be a public information meeting led by Jason Valerius from MSA Professional Services. The meeting begins at 6 p.m., will last approximately 1 hour, and will be offered both face-to-face and virtually. The meeting will be recorded for broadcast and streaming if you are unable to participate, so those links will be shared on the city website for viewing after the meeting. The virtual location is posted on the city website if you want to participate via Zoom. We can accommodate up to 500 attendees via Zoom. Attendees are encouraged to connect via a web browser or call in before the meeting begins around 5:45. Online participants will be able to ask questions using a chat function. Face-to-face location is the Columbus Senior Center, or the Columbus Area Senior Center at 125 North Dickinson Boulevard. We're hoping to accommodate up to about 25 attendees on site with appropriate spacing between chairs, and attendees are encouraged to wear a mask if possible. Again, that is Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, 6 p.m. at the Senior Center, lasting about an hour, and I hope that we get some good participation in that. Lastly, I just wanted to update citizen appointments to city boards, committees, and commissions. A list of vacancies that I shared at our last meeting has been posted to the city website. I've received just a few applications at this point, and we'll need many more to fill the vacancies. So I again encourage anyone who would like further information to please look at the city website for more information or contact me and see if I can help you. That's all I had. Unless there's anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alder Pipeline here will make a motion to adjourn.
Ryan, second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned for just a few minutes, and we'll be back up with the committee of the whole. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. The time is now 7:07 p.m. We are here in City Hall chambers. We also have Alder Gray participating via Zoom, as well as other city staff members. Pat, could you please take the roll, please?
Gray,
Present.
McCabe,
Here.
Piperone,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Tome,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. This meeting has been noticed with state statutes and local ordinances. I will take a motion to approve the agenda if there are no amendments.
Alder Piperone will make the motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Gray, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda's approved. Number 4, we have citizen comments. Do I have anybody signed up to speak for citizen comment here this evening for the Committee of the Whole meeting agenda? Is there anybody on Zoom that wanted to speak under citizen comment? I know Heather spoke earlier, so. Hearing none, we will move on to number 5, which is the committee minutes from the Hillside Cemetery, from their meeting on February 3rd of 2020. Were there any questions or comments on the committee minutes, the Hillside Cemetery? Hearing none, move on to number 6, which is discuss reopening plans for the Senior Center, Aquatic Center, and recreation programs. We've got a lot of information in the packet on this particular item for these programs as we're looking to reopen and sort of turn the dial and safely during this COVID-19 crisis. So anybody on council, I guess, want to kick us off, and any comments or concerns? We'll start in the order that they're listed on the agenda of the senior center. Anything, comments, concerns? Trina?
Oh.
Is that severe weather? That's okay. Good to know. Yes. We are sitting under the highest peak in the city, so it's okay. Trina.
Oh, all right. Well, I wasn't expecting the thunderstorm until 10 or 11 when it was originally forecast to arrive. But anyway, I had noticed that the books, games, and puzzles are said to be disinfected after being returned prior to being loaned back out. That sounded improbable for the materials. Just wanted to mention that the library is planning on doing a 3-day quarantine for books returned before loaning them back out, so just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and I guess I missed putting that in there, but that's our intention as well. When they get returned, they're quarantined for several days, and then we wipe them down. We do have disinfectant wipes that we can wipe the surfaces of them down. I know it sounds more challenging with puzzles, but we can do it with puzzles as well. So we do plan to make sure that they're very safe before we loan them out for a second time.
Okay, good question. Any other questions for Kim, or concerns or comments on senior center plans?
It's not a concern at all. Just for everything, I'm sad seeing all the things that aren't going to happen for a while. No birthdays, no breakfast, sadness. But I'm glad it's, opening.
Yeah, thank you.
Kim, I just wanted to say thank you for putting together, it looks like you've got a very thorough plan here. I think it's quite possibly doing everything possible to keep the members safe,
Yep.
and I just really appreciate that.
Thank
So.
you.
If there's no further questions, oh, Mayor Tome, did you have a?
Just wanted to ask
question,
about
sir?
the waiver that you have in the back of the packet. Is that a model that you found from someone else?
Yes, it actually came from the Wisconsin Parks and Rec organization. It was one that they had an example of, or actually, no, it was one of the leagues that Amy Jo works with. I brought the waiver that you could. Okay, well, we got an example for that. Yeah, and I had just, adapted it for us. We had talked to Paul about that to see what his thoughts were on it. And I guess it's kind of up in the air whether or not we need to use it or not, but it doesn't hurt to use it. So we decided we maybe would go about doing that. That's why it's in red, and there's just to point out that that's something that we don't necessarily need to do, but it's not a bad idea to do. And I don't know if Paul has any other comments about that, but.
I think he'd probably butt in if he really had had some concerns, but I just wanted to ask about that, where it came from, if it was something that you drafted or
Yeah,
if there was
no.
another model out there. So
Yeah.
I think it's probably best to have something in place, whether it's needed or not. So appreciate the work.
Sure.
Trina?
Oh, no, I mean, all your work putting this together, it's impressive, it's extensive. Were you planning on also putting this on your Facebook site or something for
Yeah.
people, just so they know ahead of time to feel more comfortable?
We have a plan to make sure that we communicate with our membership and also have it available for folks who aren't necessarily members yet. We have some new members, surprisingly, during the time that we've been closed. We've gained some members, which is lovely. So we're going to communicate with them verbally. We're going to make calls to all of our membership. We're going to make sure that the basic information is available in newsletters in the Columbus Commotion. And then we're also going to make sure that it's available on our website so people can look at it. The timing of it, again, is a little bit up in the air. We're hoping to start this as soon as we get your final approval. But whether or not we move to the next phase or the next phase is, again, up to what we hear from our county health department and the CDC and so forth about how we're progressing and opening things up. We're certainly going to continue to use caution, but we want to make sure everybody knows about it so they understand how there's going to be some differences even when we do open up again. But we're going to do everything we can to start making sure that people can be engaged and take part in the things that they really want to come and take part in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for Kim from the Mayor Tome?
Just wanted a little more clarification on the meal site. I read it in here, and on phase one it says that the meal delivery, no congregate or pickup, so that would remain the same as it is right now. It's delivery
Correct.
only.
Right now, we deliver to everyone. Usually you have to meet qualifications in order for the food to be delivered. Everyone else has to come into the senior center. As soon as this whole situation started, they went to 100% to delivery. They don't have any qualifications for you to have delivery. So they'll continue that until they receive guidelines from the health department that it's okay for them to serve congregate meals again. So that's kind of up to their organization to determine. We're going to use that as our guideline when serving food and beverages. So once they open it up to congregate meals, then that's when we'll look at, again, having beverages and food on site, potlucks, those kinds of things. But until then, we're waiting for their directive, just because they're the people who are most in the know of what's going to be appropriate for our group of people.
Absolutely. Do you know if those numbers have changed or fluctuated at all since all this started with the meal delivery? Are there more participants?
We do have more. I was delivering during the time too, and our numbers, we don't have all of our congregate people getting meals delivered, just a few. And so the numbers have gone up. I think the 2 routes that are in the Columbus area have increased by probably 7 people, give or take, depending on the day of the week. But yeah, people would try to make people aware of it because it is a nice service. The meals are really good. They're inexpensive. So they're affordable to everyone. And the ADRC is more than willing to have more participants. If anybody is still interested, they get delivered every day, and they're doing a good job keeping that going during this time, and volunteers aren't as available and that kind of thing, so.
Good. All right, thank you, Kim.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I think we can move on to the Aquatic Center and the plan that is in the packet. We have Amy Jo here, as well as Kane from the CAAC, if we have any questions.
I think so, for the blind, yes. So good evening. For those of you that do not know, this is Kane Bruskowski. He's the Columbus Area Aquatic Center manager. And Kane actually drafted a very safe reopening plan, so I'll let you direct your questions to him. I'll help if you need it. Okay. So are there any questions? It's pretty extensive, but
It's very extensive.
it's not a very confined space, so there is a lot of areas that we had to touch base on.
If you don't mind, I'll just reiterate the questions that Heather asked when she called in, and you may have them in here already addressed, but I think her first question was, would there be any confidential information collected that could be used for contact tracing if there was an infection, if I understood that correctly?
I don't believe that we could do something like that under the HIPAA laws, so
My
we're not
understanding-
addressing that.
Yeah, the contact tracing would be done through the county Department of Health Services, I'm assuming, so.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, that was my understanding on that. And then also the restriction of who can attend. I know that you had something in here about possibly looking at the policy on the age, but it sounded like maybe she was concerned about who the public is, how we define the public if we're opening the pool to the public, so.
Right, I know that our current policy states that children 9 or under have to be accompanied by an adult. And since I've submitted this, a lot of other aquatic facilities that are open have implemented the 12 or older have to be accompanied, 12 or younger, excuse me, must be accompanied. So I guess I didn't know how, and that was something Kane had actually suggested, but I don't know if we could do that. Are we able to change that? Do we have to put a resolution or something in place in order to do that?
I am not aware. Kyle?
If there were restrictions and changes to policy that you want to adopt, I think we would include that in a resolution to be adopted at the next council meeting. So if there are changes or tweaks to the normal practices that you'd like to see, we should get them all in a resolution so that it's an officially adopted policy of the city council.
Now, would that need to be adopted just for a short amount of time? We wouldn't want to change that for forever.
Yeah, I think you would, maybe you'd make it for the season or make it, until all restrictions could be lifted, something, fairly flexible and broad so that you're not locked into it forever unless that's the intent, which it doesn't seem like it's been a problem before this. But yeah, I think something that would allow you to continue on throughout the season at least.
Sure. I'd ask Kane, I mean, is that something?
I mean, I'd like to see the 12 and under be accompanied because, I mean, you get all those little kids in there and there's big groups of kids that run into the showers together, take showers.
Mm-hmm.
They're hanging on each other, so I'd like to see, parents have to go with them to kind of contain them a little bit more. Because that's the big goal here is keeping the kids in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you guys saw that with the plan. We don't want them hanging out in concessions the whole time, hanging out in the locker rooms, because the water is going to be the safest place for them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, what I was asking is, do you experience any issues with kids under 12 between that? Right now, in normal times, if you're 9 or older, you could go there by yourself, I guess.
Yeah,
what I'm asking is should we make this a temporary, or are you experiencing
I
problems?
I think a temporary
year-round?
one's okay.
Temporary,
I just think
okay.
that, for this being, we don't want them to hang on each other and touch. I think that those 3 years of age difference, they're still hanging on each other. They're okay in a regular year, but this year I think it needs to be changed.
Okay. Thank you.
More parental guidance.
I guess I did have a concern, and I understand why it's in here. I am sorry, I saw it in here somewhere about, and you're out of the water. As soon as you get out of the water, you put on a mask. And I don't mean to sound facetious, but if I look around this room right now, I have a lot of adults surrounding me who do not have masks on. I do today. I haven't always up here, but what I'm saying is that I don't know how. I guess my concern is that the staff of the pool are going to have to implement that rule, and then a lot of the staff of the pool are young adults or teenagers, and a lot of people have very strong feelings about wearing a mask. I guess I feel like that might cause some contention.
These are suggestions. We're open
Right,
for.
right. So I guess that's my concern, and I don't know what council thinks about that. But I also just in general, it's very hot outside today, and I can't imagine myself even sitting on a pool chair with a mask on outside of the water. And that's just, I don't know what the will of the council is or what other concerns, and I don't know, I guess, is that recommended? Did you get that?
It's pretty lenient from the most part of what I read, that some people it's suggested that you do wear them. I mean,
Sure.
we can't make anybody wear them, but we
Okay.
will provide the PPE for all of our staff, and we're asking them to wear it. And everybody that we talk to is confident enough to wear it during their work shift, but as far as the community, I don't.
I'm definitely concerned, and I want to keep the community safe, but at the same time, I think that is, it might be a lot to ask and implement. Trina?
Thank you. Along those lines, I guess for myself, the only place I would really want to request that members are wearing masks would be in the locker room, where people are in a tighter indoor space and it tends to be kind of stuffy and air's not moving so much. That's just the main place I would picture for, trying to increase safety.
Okay.
I would echo that.
I see your point, and it's a realistic point, is as soon as you're out, I mean, you're not carrying the mask with you when you're swimming, and you have to go to your chair, and it seems almost impossible to follow and impossible to uphold. I get Trina's, or Alderman Reed's opinion as well, but how do you enforce that in the locker rooms as well, or the change rooms? It's maybe a recommendation, but I don't think there's any way to really put it as policy.
No, I wouldn't plan on forcing it for the locker rooms, but having the signage of please in the enclosed space, wear your mask. Something along those lines.
Sure.
Mayor Tome?
I would, to simplify, is just suggest a mask indoors. I mean, it's the check-in. I think that's when people are coming to the pool. They're checking in, they're walking through the hallway, possibly going to the locker room. But I think if you want to encourage anybody, it's going to be when they're inside of a building more than, maybe if they're social distance and they're 6 feet apart outside and it's, outdoors is a little bit less risky. But I think instead of confusing people on, well, I went in to do this, but I didn't go into the locker room, you're still inside of the facility. But I think the most contact you're going to have with surfaces going through that is on the way in. After you've been in the pool for an hour and a half and you're leaving, you're going to be exiting the gate, from my understanding, out there. So you're not going back through the building. So I think kind of having a little bit more control as people enter is maybe just a simpler rule to get everybody to understand.
Sure. Simplify it. We can do that.
Ian?
Katie?
Ian?
So I would definitely like to see some sort of enforcement of people wearing masks indoors. I think our community as a whole is not taking this situation as seriously as most of the world. And I see people without masks everywhere I go, including on the council. We should be wearing a mask anytime we're indoors and around other people. You are going to come within 6 feet of people. You are going to be breathing on things. You are going to be touching things. It should not be something that is recommend it, it should be required, and it should be required in all of our government buildings. I do believe everyone sitting in there today should be required to be wearing a mask, as well as many other places we are going. It's for everyone's safety.
Thank you, Ann.
But outdoors, while they're swimming and while they're outside, I agree that's a little, wearing a mask out there is not the same. So, but indoors for sure.
Fair enough.
I think also, I was just going to chime in and say, now this, what I'm about to say can't necessarily be required, but maybe be promoted. That maybe encouraging people who are coming in to be dressed and ready for the pool as much as possible to try to limit that inside time. And I know you guys did, say that the locker rooms are going to be kind of only available on exit or entrance and exit to the pool, so not like going in and out. And all of the lockers will not be available for rental. So minimal items in. And as much as you can promote that, I think the better, if kids can show up in their swimsuits.
Sure.
Yeah. So
That makes sense.
if that's possible.
Yeah, we'll
to
ask
promote.
them to bring their items to their chair or their.
I don't think that's something you can really enforce, but I think if you just promote it, I think a lot of the community might practice that. Mayor Tome?
I don't disagree with Ian's comments either, but I think that we kind of need to pick a path moving forward, because we can suggest all we want, but if we want it to be a requirement in city public buildings or facilities, I believe that we can make that enforceable if it became part of a local order. My concern with the pool is there's younger kids that work there. They're great employees, but this is a completely different environment or atmosphere than they've had to deal with. And what I don't want to do is have a 15 or 16-year-old kid that has to try to convince an adult that's not, happy about a policy to please try to practice, safe and healthy behavior. So I really don't like to put city employees in that position. I certainly hope people are going to act responsibly, but I would also kind of like to consider having something put in place that if someone simply doesn't want to take any suggestions and cause a ruckus, that they can be removed from the property. That's a conversation that can move parallel with these conversations if need be.
I would agree. Trina?
Unrelated to safety, I was just wondering if there's going to be any kind of storage outside for belongings?
We were just gonna have them put them by their chairs.
Okay.
Because, like I said, they won't, the whole thing is just keeping them out of the locker rooms. It's just not letting them keep
In the
going in
open
and out of there.
space.
So, I mean,
And they'll be there for 2 hours, and it'll be their responsibility for any lost or stolen items. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen, but they'll be in for the 2 hours, and then we'll exit them out and do our sanitation and open back up for the next round. So I don't know how we would do that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think just encouraging the minimal amount of necessities. I actually got a haircut this week, and the salon I attended said, don't bring your purse in. Don't bring. Of course, you got to have a tote bag when you're at the pool,
Right.
for your towels and such. But I think just encouraging that minimal amount of
Towel, sunscreen,
thing,
water
yeah,
bottle.
whatever your cash or credit card, whatever you need. But yeah, it's you don't necessarily need your phone to swim, I hope. So encouraging that less. Paul?
I'm not gonna lie, it's been a long time since I've been at the pool, but how will you work restroom visits, if you will, if you're limiting the access into the locker rooms? Are the restrooms part of the locker rooms, or are they separate?
yeah, so my goal with this plan, like I said, we have those 2 family change rooms in there, and I want to keep those in the locked position, so whenever somebody wants to go in there, we just have an ACS employee open them up for them, quick disinfect them, they go in there, and when they're done, they lock again. Next person goes in, we disinfect them. and just keep rolling with that. Because like I said, I want to keep people out of the locker rooms as much as possible, because that's like the whole concern with all the aquatic facilities that I've talked to. It's just, what do you do about the locker rooms? I know that me and Amy Jo just looked at one for Cambridge, or was it Cambridge, right?
Yeah.
And they're not having people go through the locker rooms either. They want to shut those down because they're germ factories. Like, if we can keep the family change, that way we know who's coming in and out, and we can always disinfect them, because if they're coming in through the locker rooms, it's going to be really hard to kind of disinfect those all the time, because it's a bigger space.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome to come to the pool. We'll give you a tour.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, so you're saying that the public will have access to bathrooms, it just has to be asked?
Yeah, we have two front desk people, and a lot of times those people accidentally leave them locked when they leave them. So we always have ACS employees, that's our upfront staff at admissions, and they have to constantly go and unlock them for people because they just accidentally do it. But that way we can at least go in there, disinfect it for everybody. Because, you know, I'm worried about, in our main locker rooms, not so much, you know, adults doing stuff, but we have those changing tables in there, and, you know, you have all the shower heads, so I'm worried about people just constantly touching that stuff without it being cleaned after each use.
Mm-hmm.
At least if they're in those two family changes, we can always guarantee that it's cleaner. It might just take a little bit longer.
We did, as far as a disinfectant, we purchased 2 backpacks that the staff will use, and it has a cleaning solution, so when everybody does leave, we can go through and just spray the chairs, anything that's stainless steel, like the ladders and the slide and things like that. In the locker room, we can do a quick sweep through and disinfect everything to the CDC guidelines.
Great. Let's see. I know, so I was on the CAAC last year.
Yes, you were.
And during one of our many meetings at the pool, we talked a bit about, at one meeting, about the concession stands and how hot it gets in there. Mm-hmm. And I guess I, as I read through this plan, and I know this is sort of at the back of probably your mind right now, mm-hmm. But I know at one point we talked about a potential air conditioner in that area, and I think about the employees and having to wear masks and gloves and being in that area when it's 90 degrees. And that just, I thought maybe that's something that council should be aware of as well, because sweating profusely in that small
Yeah.
confined.
I get what
with
you're
the,
saying there.
With the the coolers and things that are running in there, there's a lot of equipment, and it
warm
gets
in
very
there.
difficult.
It does. We added additional fans on the ceiling and on the sides, but it just doesn't seem to.
Yeah, and I understand that
Catch
the
up.
windows are constantly opening and, you know, closing at the front,
Yeah.
people coming up to order, but.
The one important thing there so if you read through the plan, I did say that we were only going to do packaged food, so ice cream and stuff. So a majority of that heat does come from us running that nacho cheese machine, chicken strips, the slushy machine.
Pretzels.
You know, we have a lot of things that aren't going to be running this year, just because it's not worth it to try and, you know, make that stuff, especially since it's exposed food. I'd rather just give it prepackaged stuff, and I don't think it'll get nearly as hot as it will in the past, because that stuff's not going to be running.
Okay, good.
Good
to
point.
hear. Any further questions or concerns?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
So what are we going to do as set as our guidelines? It's a public pool. Are we going to limit it to Columbus School District people?
That was, you know, one of the major concerns, I guess, a lot of people shared. You know, Sun Prairie's Aquatic Center is closed for the year. They've announced that. Are we going to get an influx of people from out of town trying to use our facility? And how does the council feel we should handle that?
School district, I believe, would be Fall River, Elba Heights.
There's something like
outside
22
area.
small municipalities within the Columbus School District. I think it was 22 is what they named.
I like the idea of school districts. How do you identify a patron as part of the school district? Because, you know, are they supposed to carry their school ID on them, or I mean, I'm a little concerned with how do you prove who you are.
So I guess some of our big concerns are, Paul, is that we feel like we have an obligation to the school district and Columbus residents right before we have, because we're limited to 125 people. So if we have 50 people from Sun Prairie or wherever prior to our members, what do we do? How do we put a handle on that? And that's one of the things that Kane had suggested, that Columbus residents call in between 3 and 4 and they schedule a time with me for the next day. And then at 5 o'clock, I can open up ActiveNet and people can enroll for their own time slots. It's going to be very difficult with the system that we have in place, extremely difficult, but I think we can make it work. What's the best practice?
I know that in the plan, I think I put members, you know, they're gonna be the ones that would call in first, because I mean, we did sell quite a few memberships and everything like that, and then open it up to the residents of Columbus, and then last wave would be non-residents. But I understand that might be kind of tricky, and I wanna see as many people get in there as possible. And if you look at the plan, we broke it down into 4 2-hour sections, so we got 150 people each time. That's opening it up to 600 people. I mean, there's going to be some days like today where those spots are going to get taken right away. But shouldn't the first priority be to the members? You know, they paid their yearly due, and then open it up to the residents.
But I guess, I think what Paul was alluding to is that if we go the route of school district, whether they're members or not, how is your staff going to understand who, are you going to have a list of all of the different places that encompass Columbus School District there at the desk, so that somebody would have their ID handy?
So right now, ActiveNet is set up that everything, if they're set up in the system, you enter their address, it tells you automatically if they're resident, non-resident.
Okay.
It won't necessarily tell me if they're
district, non-district.
District or non-district. So maybe something from the school, a school ID, I'm not sure.
See, but if I didn't have any children in the school district, I'm not going to have a school ID or any, you know, so.
But we would know if you're
People of all
resident or
ages,
non-resident, yeah.
yeah.
It's tricky.
Trina?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to require a school ID, but I do like the idea of limiting it to those within the district. I don't know if we would just have a listing of the towns and townships included and not be overly concerned if they're just not technically in the school district, but most of the township is in, just to limit it from the bigger cities in the area.
What about people that have memberships, or people are allowed to buy memberships from outside? So what about people that currently have or have already paid for those memberships? And what do we do?
Well, that's why I wanted to, I mean, they paid their yearly due. You know, that's why I want to open it up to them first and then the residents, because it's going to be so much easier for us to track through ActiveNet, because we can have the members call Amy Jo, we can get them their time spot, and then you have the other groups, the residents, they just enroll online for their time spot, because I don't want to have a day where it's, you know, 90 degrees and we have a line of 400 or 500 people and we have to turn away, you know, at 350, because that's when people are going to get really mad. I want to kind of manage expectation and set it like, we have 150 spots, those are all taken, you know, the next 150, they're at that time, because I feel like we're going to get a lot of angry people if they drive 30 minutes away with 5-6 kids and then all of a sudden they can't swim. I just feel like if we kind of lay that out right away with having the members, then open it up to residents and non-residents, we can manage that expectation a lot better.
I'm not Kyle, if you.
Maybe you could have it open to residents and non-residents with a membership. And as part of the membership application, you could verify their address with the tax record. Their tax bill actually shows the district that they pay taxes to, and that would be, you know, we're talking at a limited number of people. It's not probably going to be 500-600 people, so you know that would just be one more step to take, and the burden could be put on the people applying for membership. If you're not a resident, bring us a copy of your tax bill for wherever you live, that we can track down what district you're actually from.
Well, what about renters?
Renters would still have a tax bill for the property. They may not get the tax bill, but there is a tax bill. Columbia County, Dane County, Dodge County all have a GIS system that you can see a tax bill, and you'll see the taxing jurisdictions listed on the bill.
I guess I still have concerns that we announce that and then 400 people from Sun Prairie sign up to buy memberships for the year.
Well, I've had
Or-
people from all over calling,
Right.
hey, you're the only pool
This is-
opening, you know, what's your plan? And-
Because there's such a limited amount of A, things to do in general, and B, facilities like this open in the entire area. Ian,
So I think a hybrid version of what everybody is saying would make sense. So if we open it up to existing members, but halt sales on future purchases of membership outside of our residency, and then instead of trying to complicate it with school IDs or tax records, we can compile a list of all the municipalities that are part of our district. Yes, some of them, they may not be entirely part of our district, but that's going to be a handful of people. That's an extravagantly minute portion of people in Fall River that aren't a portion of it. So we just include everyone in Fall River as part of that residency. And it just simplifies everything.
That's what I was saying a couple minutes ago. You said it a little better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it's everything that everybody was saying. I think we can all agree to just put it together.
except for Fall River's not in our school district.
But there are some children that do come to our school from Fall
Yes,
River.
so I guess we also have to think
So that's
about
where
that.
it's-
Um,
I don't know how all that tax stuff works, though. It's tricky, so.
Mayor Tome.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a balance, and I don't envy your position at all in trying to do this, because I think when you open the pool, we start getting bills, and the pool's not, inexpensive to operate, so I think that there may be a desire to want to get as many people through the pool as you can to help offset the expenses. I don't blame you for doing that, but I think we need to kind of pick which direction we're going in here. Are we opening up the pool to offer an opportunity to our residents, or are we doing this as a tourist attraction to make as much money as we can this year? I don't think we're going to make enough money ever at the pool, so I think that that's just kind of, an effort that's fruitless. That's me. I could be wrong. So I think you do kind of have to favor the residents without being disrespectful to other people that, already
That's
have
the path I'd like
memberships
to
or
take.
live within a certain distance from the city of Columbus. So
5 miles or something.
we don't want
I
people
was
that have
gonna say a
memberships
radius.
that can't get in the pool because there are people that are there from Sun Prairie every day. And I think, your staff is just gonna have to figure that out, how when people are coming in the door,
We'll be
who are
there.
they? I don't know that there's a great way to do it, but, you already have to approve with whether you're a resident or not when you come in. There's a $1 difference, even daily admissions. And if someone doesn't have an ID with them or a utility bill or something to at least convince you that they're, from somewhere local, they're just gonna have to be made aware of that when they come to the pool. I don't think that's unfair.
Kyle.
Just as a sort of an offshoot observation, in my office as I was cleaning out some of the old materials, I have stacks and stacks of capital campaign cards from when the pool was built. And the one thing I did note is that many of the people that paid to help build the pool don't live in the city. And so I just wanted to bring that up, that, there are those contributors that are local, but not necessarily in the city. And that is, that was years and years ago, but worth noting.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm leaning towards is maybe a radius. I think that's a fair way to do it, that I think could encompass everybody, but you can't get too far outside where we've got people coming from all over
So-
Kingdom Come. But
5 to 10 miles would stay within, I'd hate to say it, but would eliminate, Beaver Dam, Sun Prairie patrons, but it would still capture a lot of the people that did donate to help the facility become what it is.
Correct.
So you're still,
Correct. I guess I'm still on the fence about what to do about existing members that live maybe in those other communities, so.
How many existing members do we have outside of the community?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I would have to look in. I know that we have in the past had some families from Sun Prairie and Janesville that have regularly purchased aquatic membership passes with us. I don't have the totals offhand.
Okay.
Would you say it's more than 50 or less than 50?
Oh.
I'd say it's like, are you talking in Fall River too, or just?
No, outside of
Outside,
that.
like Sun Prairie, Janesville.
I would say maybe very most 20.
Yeah.
It's not many.
Yeah, so we're not talking about a large number for people, so I think we can include all members plus the radius around Columbus without an issue. And just halt member sales outside of our area and for future until this is over.
So no more, are you suggesting, Ian, no more membership sales? Is that what I'm hearing?
Outside of whatever radius we determine.
We decide, okay.
Paul Johnson.
If we don't get a bunch of people from Sun Prairie and Beaver Dam and everywhere else, all of a sudden finding that loophole that if they have a membership, they can still use the pool.
Yep, I think that's a good idea. I'm on board with that. Paul, Attorney Johnson, you looked like you were earlier wanting to chime in.
No, you're doing fine so far.
Okay, great. So what is the will of the council? What does everybody else think about the idea of the radius, as well as allowing the existing memberships outside of the community or the radius, and not allowing any further memberships to be purchased? Paul?
Alder Piper here. I'm torn. In a way, I'd like to come back for another committee in whole. However, and you're eating away possibly even 90-degree days, and everybody wants to be in the pool. So I don't want to be the lone dissenter here and hold it up. But I think there could be more discussion.
Mike McCabe?
I like the idea of halting memberships for the year and going with the memberships that we have now, and then the radius. I think that's a good idea. I just wanted to say, obviously, you guys, I think, did a pretty good job of coming up with a good plan concerning the community and how to handle this for the most part. And I'm guessing, as you open, things might change.
Yeah.
You have to see what works, what doesn't
We'll
work.
tweak things as we go.
But overall, I think you guys did a pretty good job here, so that's just my comment.
I've got a quick question. So would we still be open to daily non-residents outside of that or not? Because, say it's 70 degrees or something, and do we have them come then? Or those days where we're not going to get many members or residents coming? That's just what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I like the idea of you.
Well, it's a good question.
No,
You're right.
I like the idea of limiting the membership to the 10-mile radius municipality, but then you having the option to have certain time slots fully open for sign up.
So people outside of that 10 miles?
Yes.
For non-residents? Okay.
But that would probably be something you would start as like a phase 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would
to
be,
add in, to switch up some slots.
Yeah, so you're kind of doing the progression where you got people within that membership in residents of Columbus, and then once all those spots are like filled within that hour, then we go to the next, wave that calls or signs up online. Is that what you're saying?
I'm picturing it being fully just the within 10 miles and the residents for perhaps the first couple weeks, and then opening up time slots, assuming that you're seeing some, space.
Empty spots and stuff, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Maybe
sure
like
you
the
will
6 to
on
8
certain
o'clock.
days, yeah.
I think I put that this plan was like our goal date's July 5th to kind of reevaluate it, so maybe just shoot for that time frame, if that would be good.
I think also, sorry, Paul, also just keeping in mind, watching, the numbers as they are now, low in our county.
They may go
But
up.
they may go up. They may go up in surrounding counties, you know, obviously using your discretion with that to keep our community as safe as possible. Paul, what did you have to add?
Sort of to echo Alder Reed's approach, which I do like. It's almost to be seen as like just a college, when you're looking for classes in college, you're on a waiting list. And so you can have all these people signed up, and then, you know, like, and then let's say 3 or 30 people from the surrounding area don't show up. You can go there, and if there's not room right now, you put it on a waiting list. And then, you know, if your time has expired for your appointment per se, then you're allowed in. And then maybe, you know, that waiting list also transpires if 3 people leave, and if there's 3 people on the waiting list, those 3 people can come in.
I really want to avoid having people wait outside and come in. I want the groups to be 150 and then they just leave. That way we can disinfect everything for 30 minutes, because I don't want people just hanging out there inside the facility, because I know that there's maybe people wanting to take showers, eat food, and do all that. We got to get them out of there so we can properly disinfect everything.
Ian.
So I want to kind of echo what Mayor Tone mentioned earlier, is are we looking at this as a service to our community or as a money-making event for tourism? I don't think we need to open it up to outside residents aside from people who have existing memberships at any time. Perhaps a phase 2, like Trina mentioned, that we evaluate later, it could happen, but I don't think we need waiting lists. I don't think we need to open it up at all anymore. We are trying to get through a horrible thing that's happening to everyone across in the entire world right now. And we're trying to provide what services and things that we can. We're not trying to make our pool earn an income. So trying to create waiting lists and, you know, opening it up during specific hours for other people, I don't think that's necessary at this time. I think we should just keep it simple. You're allowed in if you have an existing membership outside of the area. Otherwise, it's just within the radius that we determine.
Okay. I would agree. That'd be a nightmare to track. And
Mayor Tome?
I just think it's difficult to, you know, Kane, when you asked the question, you know, we don't want to be so restrictive that all of a sudden, you know, in 2 weeks we go, well, there's not enough people coming to the pool, and so let's change our scope and who we're going to invite. And then it gets hotter out 2 weeks later, and we've opened up the scope, and then we've got so many people that we're overwhelmed. So I think we need to pick something to start with. And I trust you and your staff. You're going to see what's happening there. If we're overwhelmed all the time, you know, we just need to give some flexibility in the policy for you to be able to kind of look, here's the base number we have for memberships. Here's what we need for each shift. Are we filling up the shifts, you know, or, you know, each 2-hour segment or not? And let us know what you need. But I think you've put a lot of work into this, and you've tried to think about every possible angle. But I don't think we can do this as a community effort and as a tourism effort together. We need to kind of say this is something we want to do for community as safely as we possibly can. And if everything goes well, maybe we can expand it in a month. So
I also think the lack of things to do for young people right now, I think we're kind of maybe underestimating what that's going to do. I think there's certainly a lot of kids, my own included, that are wanting to leave the house and go somewhere where they're allowed to, as in many of them aren't even allowed in most stores. So I think we may be surprised by the amount of engagement that we have even on those 70-degree days. So it's my hope that everybody in the community can get out and have some fun and stay safe. So I guess, do you guys have the direction that you need to go forward with this? So a radius?
Sure. No, I do. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to set this all up and active now, but I'll get it to work.
Okay. Mayor Tome.
We'll figure it out.
just going to ask it before, if we bring this back to the next regular meeting for some sort of approval or resolution or whatever it's going to be, who's going to be the part of the team that could still look at the map and draw the circle and how far that is?
So I've heard a couple numbers. I think I heard 5 miles, 10 miles. it'd be good to get guidance on one of those
I
or a
see.
number in between. And then I
10.
think we can use our GIS potentially. I think we can work on that to try to get a map put together. It might be piecemeal in each county, but I think we can do that.
And I think you probably know GIS a little bit. I think I've seen you look at it, but I think adjust the numbers so you feel like you're including what would be like local or within the school district kind of to the best degree.
Sure.
And find out the best target to start with. We trust that
Throw a
staff can
dart.
do that and just come back and say, here's the recommendation, here's the criteria we're gonna put for the opening of the pool. I'm sure staff can figure that out.
We can do it.
Thank you guys for putting together this plan. It looks like you guys have really thought things through and
Read
we all
lots of
appreciate that.
material,
Yes.
so I think we'll be good.
And looked into the best practices, and I think we all appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay.
You have one with the next one, Angel.
Yep.
All right, so moving on then to recreation programs. We still have Amy Jo up there.
Okay, so for those of you that had not met Michelle Wallace, she's my lead at my summer day camp. So she's here to help answer any questions as well. She's my right-hand man at the camp.
All right.
So any questions with this safety plan that we have in place? This one's a little bit easier because it is more of a confined space and it will be at the pavilion. It worked out well that a lot of my rentals moved to the latter part of August through the end of the year and moved some to next year. So that space that we have from June 22nd to August 14th, we don't have any rentals. So we're lucky that way, so. Come on.
All right.
I think this is going to be something that's going to be greatly utilized as well. We've had a lot of people call. I've had a lot of people enroll this week already, now that they know that we are formalizing a plan. Basically, in a nutshell, everything is the same as it was last year, but we're moving it to the pavilion because it's larger space where we can group the kids in the younger, the middle, and the older kids. Michelle and I think that the age 5 is a good age 5 to 14, where previous years we had a Pee-wee camp where it was age 3 to 5, but those kids do need a little bit more guidance and more hands-on. So we're thinking of having camp just from 5 and older this year. The kids can take direction and
Here in the
do things
packet,
on their own.
it states 4 to 14. Did you mean 5?
Yeah, it will be 5 to 14.
Okay.
It's always changing.
Always evolving, okay.
Anything you want to say? Another thing that has changed is in the past, we did provide snacks for the kids.
Right.
We will not be doing that this year. We're going to require kids to bring their own snacks and their own lunches. We will have bottled water for the kids, though, because it may get hot. We used to have pitchers of water. This will be bottled water.
So from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Monday through Thursday.
Is there meal served?
We're asking, and the
I'm
kids
sorry.
that have come in the past before, they bring a lunch, so we'll break
Okay,
for lunch.
so it's a self-pack, okay.
And then we have a
And the
refrigerator
area is
there.
certainly large enough where they can social distance while they're eating. for
Yep,
that practice.
we'll set the tables up on the one lower level side of the kitchen and on the other side and upstairs.
Okay.
We'll kind of divide them, and our plan is to have one staff member for every 6 kids. We can have up to 8 kids, and that staff member will be with those kids the entire time.
Okay.
So they're always with the same children, they're always with the same families. Kids will have their own designated craft kits. Like I mentioned, they'll have their own highlighters and crayons that they'll put away every night. We'll sanitize and put it away for the night until the next day.
I guess the only question I have, and it's not necessarily really a concern, I just have a question of, you have a lot of times probably siblings that are enrolled together. Now, are you going to try to group those siblings together, or are you going to try to like separate? I mean, because they're probably
more
different
than
ages
doing
and
that.
things like that. So I don't know if that's
I think the
better
majority
practice.
of the time, when the siblings are together, they don't necessarily play together.
Right.
The age difference enough. If they want to be together, we'll give them that option.
Okay.
But for the most part, we want to keep certain kids with certain counselors all the time.
Sure. I guess the reason why I was asking is because often when you're in public, you're allowed to be closer to these people
With the family.
because, per family, because, you know, they've been quarantined together this entire time. So that's why I was asking, so it would be less.
Good point.
But I know, I mean, if my kids, for example, were enrolled, I'm not sure that they would want to be in the same group. So I can understand
play it
if
by
you
ear.
use your discretion there, so.
Like I said, honestly, if they want to be together, they could be together, but I really think most siblings are going to want to break from each other.
Sure,
And
yeah.
want to be in an environment where they can have interaction with other kids, not just their, you know, because everybody's starved for that at this point in time.
Yes, absolutely. That was just a question, but thank you. Trina?
Oh, nothing big. I was just wondering if you're going to have something like backup little boxes of raisins or something in case a kid forgets to bring their lunch and their parent isn't able to leave work, or
We'll
just
have some things, we're not gonna advertise it, but
Yeah.
like individual packages of goldfish, the raisins is a good idea, but we have to kind of watch allergies too.
Yeah. It's a big issue. Parents don't necessarily tell the allergies of children. So, you know, they may come in and then all of a sudden they're telling you there's several allergies, but mostly is gluten and things like that.
Nuts.
So we have to be very careful on what they're offered. And it just seems like a liability more so to have these snacks around than to encourage them to bring their own things and have the separate areas for them to have it.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with encouraging them to bring their own, just knowing how little ones can have hungry meltdowns.
Yeah.
Hangry.
We did talk about having Freezy Pops available. With the heat and everything, Freezy Pops are a great
Those
way
are
to
popular.
cool them
We
down.
buy a lot of
There's no
those.
gluten. There's no, you know, that most of the allergy things that do pop up are not in Freezy Pops. So they are safe food to have around. It also are prepackaged, and we can open them
And they're economical.
cleanly.
Yes.
Yes.
And another thing too is that we are going to require that people have their children enrolled. Michelle and I will hopefully do an orientation night where they can come and socially distance and enroll their kids, fill out the health forms. Typically in the past, we would do drop-in, they sign the waivers, and we're not going to allow that this year. You have to be enrolled. So with blessing, I'll get that, you know, started if I can, but that way we have a handle on who's there, and we'll have a cutoff date. But if things do change and numbers are changing, we can possibly lift up the number of people as well attending camp.
Does anybody have any further questions, concerns? Paul?
Katie.
Oh,
yes.
Ian, sorry, I'll let you go first.
So while I love it providing as many things to our residents as possible, I mean, there's a reason school's closed, and I don't see a 5-year-old child respecting social distancing at all. This while it's great, and I think it's almost a necessity to many of our residents and their children, it seems like more of a liability and a cesspool of bacteria and virus than anything. Small children don't understand social distancing. They don't understand PPE, and they are not going to respect it.
Well, Ian, that's one of the reasons that we have limited the number of children with the staff members. They're all going to go through their training. They're all going to have their PPE. This is a very similar plan to what other municipalities are doing with their day camps, and that age kind of falls in there. I think that if from the very beginning, we have a conversation with those 6 kids, for example, that are Michelle's group, that, nope, we don't do this, we do this. So we will be working with our staff diligently to ensure that our staff is safe and the kids at the camp are safe. I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't think that we could pull it off.
And what happens when your children do not adhere to social distancing? What repercussions are there? What happens? Because it will happen.
We do have a parent handbook that parents have to sign and the children have to sign. We've always had that. And we do have guidelines that if the kids are misbehaving, if they don't do certain things, that there's a warning and we can ask them that they don't return. So that's a conversation that we can have with the parents. I mean, I'd like to have a parent meeting as well. I understand what you're saying. I do take this very seriously.
To tell these kids that they can't return when this happens, because it will inevitably happen. We both know it will happen. Are you prepared to tell
We had
these
it happen
children-
last year. We had to ask somebody to leave, and it was a difficult situation. But we met with the mother, we met with the child, and
But
it
what I'm saying
happens.
is, this year, you're going to have to ask them to leave because they gave each other a hug, not because they did something that would normally be out of line.
I'm going to chime in here. My sister works at a daycare, and she's been working at a daycare this entire time, and they're practicing very, very similar things. Each teacher only has a very small group of kids, and I would like to point out also just the lack of daycare in this city, and not that the daycare is not to be
Right.
the same thing, but I think in terms of the safety procedures and protocols, I think it's very, very similar. And I think that what you have here is very similar to what is recommended for other daycares. Kyle, did you want to chime in?
I just wanted to point out that similar to the pool opening, if the council decides to move forward with the day camp plan, we'll need to have the conversation about the geographic area where you'll accept camped participants from. Maybe it's simple and it matches the pool, or maybe it's different because it's a different program, but we would need an answer if we move forward with that.
Amy Jo, in the past, have you only accepted like residents, or how has that worked?
For the most part, it's been residents, but you'll have a grandparent have their kids come visit them for 2 weeks, and then they'll call and they'll
So,
drop
but
their
that would
kids
be a
off at camp.
drop off, so that's not
Right, so
going to
that
be
would not
happening. Okay,
be allowed this year.
okay. Paul Pfeiffer.
Alder Pryphone. I'm just asking, I know you say in here, providing face coverings for day-to-day use. Again, I think it was addressed earlier with maybe the pool, young kids, obviously, we're not wearing masks here, and are we gonna require the 5-year-olds, 4-year-old, to wear the masks?
The
So-
children know, the staff,
Yes.
when hiring, we've discussed that we would be wearing masks
The staff will be
indoors.
wearing, yes.
And then I guess point 2 that I wrote down, we're talking about snacks and being allergic to stuff. Well, if one child brings peanuts, for example, and there's a person that's sitting right next to them, will there be anything that's
We're made aware of that, and they do fill out some medical information. It's drop-ins that we have the problem with, in which we aren't accepting this year. So I'll have medical information be made aware of any allergies and make sure those people are not exposed to those things.
And we do have the medical book that's out at all times, and Michelle's really good about going through it with the staff on a day-to-day basis. And
I'll admit, I'm not familiar with it. You did a
oh,
great
sure,
job. but
absolutely,
I'm
I
just-
get it. But those are good questions.
Thank you.
I've heard concerns from Alder Gray. I've voiced my own opinions on it. Anybody else have anything to share as to what Ian is concerned about? Do you share his concerns, or excuse me, Mike McCabe?
I understand Ian's concerns, but on the flip side, I think they could maybe use this as an opportunity, as a teaching opportunity to the kids about PPE and about safety during this pandemic, and in case it happens again in the future. It's just my comment.
Trina.
I guess, while of course I'm concerned about safety, I think this will be a safer setup than families only having a choice of dropping kids off at different neighbors. This way they do, learn about separation and the PPE. So this is probably the best option.
Plus, they're doing really cool things too. A lot of science experiments, and it's really an educational camp too.
I'm okay.
And I did try to allude to that I do think it's a great program and it's good for our residents and their children. I just we have to keep safety paramount. And I want to be reassured that everyone working the programs, both this, the pool, everything, will keep that in mind. And if people are out of line, and it's not what is traditionally out of line, if they're running up and embracing each other and forming in groups, that is in current day out of line and not acceptable behavior, and they have to be removed. Are you going to be willing, able to do that, to kick kids out when that happens, because it will almost certainly happen?
I think that's why I'm there. An adult presence brings on better behavior. We found that last year. Other years there hasn't been an adult there. They've been older kids, but it's basically been run, except for Amy Jo's interaction, by a youth. So my presence there is there to keep things in line. I'm not afraid of keeping things in line. I'm used to it. I do it every day. So discipline is going to be different. It's something we're going to have to learn and interact and be calm and talk to these kids about it, but they're going to have to learn it. And if they want to participate in the program, they have to participate in a safe way.
Well said.
And so what is the plan when children get out of line or start congregating? What do you do? Is there an area to separate children? Like, what happens? Because the parents won't necessarily be able to pick them up right away.
Well, the pavilion is quite large. In the past, kids who have acted up in different ways, they become my shadow for the day. The interaction with the other kids can be limited, especially if things are happening that are a safety concern. We did talk to them. We did last year take a child out of camp because they could not abide by the rules. So this year in particular is going to be a bigger year where we'll have more rules and we will abide by them.
Okay.
Mayor Tome.
I've had a lot of concerns thinking about opening the pool a month ago. I didn't know if we'd be having this conversation a month later or not. It's day to day, but I guess starting with the pool, just knowing Kane, my kids grew up at the pool with Kane. He doesn't put up with a lot from kids. If there's something that's not safe that's happening at the pool, I know he's gonna let them know, because one kid's going to destroy an opportunity for the rest of the community if they're not being safe. And I have faith that you're going to do the same thing at your camp as well. If it gets to the point where we can't do it safely, we won't do it. So I think this is an opportunity where the community has to, send their kids to these areas or come with them and make sure that they're have their best behavior and they're willing to adjust to the current conditions and enjoy the opportunities that we're trying to provide for them. But ultimately, if they can't do that, the opportunities won't be there. So I have confidence that you guys are going to be able to take care of these things. It's just a new environment for kids, but I also think that there's a positive to having some kids learning more about this. They haven't seen each other in a long time. They're going to be very excited, but it may be getting them ready for school next year, because I don't know what that looks like either. So thanks for putting all the work into this.
Absolutely. I also want to point out a lot of some of your time is spent outside at the park, correct?
Correct.
So not everything that's happening throughout the day is going to be inside the pavilion. Even though the pavilion is a very large space, there are a lot of outdoor activities that you guys are doing as well.
And we do have a disinfecting schedule in place for equipment that's used between groups. We'll clean it, and
Okay.
I have a lot of sports equipment and stuff at the community center, so we have plenty to go around.
Okay.
It is ideal to keep them active, and most of our activities are outdoors.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody okay, I guess, moving this forward? Do I have a consensus, I guess, to move this forward? I'm seeing a lot of nods. Yes, okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. All right. With that, I think we then can move on to number 7, which is review and discuss District 3 aldermanic applications. So in the packet, we have, actually it was outside of the packet in your paper clip. We have several letters that we've received from different community members. Many, or all, I think, are with us tonight on via the Zoom feed here. So I think, I guess I ask if everybody's read everything that was submitted, and I guess not sure exactly how we want to kick off this discussion. Does anybody have, I guess, being that we have 4 people that have submitted letters, I guess we want to discuss the process moving forward and how I think we're going to be able to narrow these down. I'm excited that there are 4 people that have submitted. That makes me very happy that, people in District 3 are willing to serve their community. So I really appreciate that, everybody that submitted. Trina.
I guess I would like to start the process by having the applicants do maybe just a 2-minute
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
You're going to get bombed soon, so.
Okay, after that short recess, we are back. We're going to begin immediately again with number 7 on the agenda for the Committee of the Whole and it's to review and discuss District 3 aldermanic applications. A little bit of feedback happening. So as I expressed before, I'm very happy that we have 4 people that have put in letters to be potentially appointed to council. Just heard a lot of wind out there. So I'm very excited about that, but we're kind of, this is on the agenda to really, we need to discuss how we want to go about selecting who's going to be, or how we want that process to look. Do we want to have kind of a Q&A with them, or what other ideas does the council have? Trina?
Oh, I guess I was hoping just to have a little 2-minute introduction from the applicants. It doesn't have to be exactly 2 minutes, but just a very short, their name, a tiny bit about them. Yeah, just really short. I don't know if you would call on their names or.
Yeah, Alder Gray had just, he just asked me if we lost internet connection on my cell phone, so I'm not sure. Can anybody hear us? Everybody can hear us? Ian, can you hear us? Ian, you look frozen. Okay. It's been very, it's challenging with the Zoom. Yes, yes. William.
So yeah, we reached out to each of the candidates that expressed interest and told them we'd be discussing the topic this evening, but we also told them that we would not be interviewing them tonight and that their attendance was not necessary because we were developing the process by which we would select them.
Correct.
So I just wanted to point out that with one gone, that would be from potentially the city hall's the guidance to them that they weren't necessary this evening, although there are several here.
I too would like just a little introduction and or Q&A, just to familiarize ourselves with the candidates.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to barrage them with any difficult questions. I just want to get a flavor for who they are and what they're hoping for.
I guess the concern is if we didn't want them, or if we didn't tell them that was going to all happen tonight, we said they could be here, but we didn't say that, our intent of having them here, that we didn't give equal opportunity. So I'm not sure how council would feel about doing that this evening.
I was thinking in the future. I didn't,
okay. Sure. Okay. I guess, is there any comments about the letters that have been submitted to us this evening? Any comments, questions that maybe we would ask in the future? What do we want this process to kind of look like? I think maybe we've brought up in the past, do we want to have each of us submit a couple of questions that we would ask to each potential appointee, or how would we like this process to move forward? Go ahead, Trina.
I suppose I'm wondering if we could email maybe 2 questions to Kyle for him to compile, and then he would send us out a list of what's been asked. Oh my goodness, the weather.
Weather is weathery. Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Paul.
I forgot I had my light on, but thank you. I just, I would like to be first. I'd rather come up with questions like Alder Reed says, rather than trying to come up with on the fly right here. Because I know we talked about that a couple of meetings back that we were going to be asking questions, but I didn't know, if we were going to be doing those tonight or not. But I'd rather have them, all formulated, well thought out, and being able to not go off the seat of our pants.
Sure. Anybody else have any suggestions for how we should move forward? I think that's a good idea. I mean, having the questions well formulated, just making sure that we know what we want to ask. So I guess do we want to ask generic questions overall? Do we want to have each of us submit 1 or 2 questions and then ask each candidate or each potential appointee the same questions? Is that?
I would almost go on that path. Perhaps like we can formulate sort of like when we named the butterfly park. Come up with a couple of questions and select some really good identifiers, if you will, and then pare it down to maybe 4 questions, and then email them to the applicants, if you will, and give them a chance to sort of quote unquote rehearse their answers, and so we can all have a little thinking time ahead of the game.
Okay. I think, Trina, you were kind of alluding to something similar to that earlier, but emailing Kyle so he can compile the questions for us. An infinite amount of feedback.
Yeah, you got a lot of bad feedback.
Yes, we can hear that in here as well. Thank you.
Andy lost Ian.
Oh, Ian.
No, now he's here.
Okay.
Who's that telephone number around the bottom?
I think that might have been Ian, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so the phone is me at the bottom, but
Okay.
I muted my phone.
Okay, was that where the feedback was coming from? Okay. Thank you. So I guess, like I said, Trina was alluding to something similar like that. And Kyle, if we all email some questions to Kyle, do we want to do that, or do we want to discuss what questions we want to do tonight? How do we? Trina, I see you hovering. I don't know.
We could start the discussion on questions tonight, just throwing out fairly generic ones. I mean, even along the lines of, so how do you feel about the 2050? Something like that. That's fairly open-ended, but would give us a notion.
Okay. So 2050.
On the similar note, why do you want to become alderman?
I think some of these, however, are going to be addressed in a lot of them. What's that?
I just wanted to point out that some of the candidates are in the meeting.
Correct.
And so if we select specific questions, we could ask for written submissions on certain questions like that, and then pair it up with verbal questions. But if we're going to determine the questions tonight, some are going to have an advance notice and others won't.
That's I guess what my concern was as well. But advanced, I guess.
This meeting is available online to view for the one candidate that is not present. So I don't believe it gives anyone a real advantage because he can see it at any point in time, even though he is not currently present.
I agree. But,
sorry.
I was just going to also state that this, whatever questions, if we did come up with some tonight, we could email to every potential appointee by tomorrow. So.
Yeah, and I think both methods are fine. One probably will result in more comprehensive, detailed answers that are thought out over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The ones without notice in person tend to give a more off-the-cuff reflection of their thoughts, and And so there's, pros and cons to
That's
each
true.
method, and maybe choose one method or the other, or a combination of the two.
Sure. Trina?
I guess I'm not looking for huge depth in the response, just getting a general idea of what direction the applicant is hoping to go in on different issues. For the one applicant not here, he would be emailed the questions like the people who are present would be. I wouldn't expect them to write down everything right now. They'll get a notice in the email. I don't think one evening's discussion would be any kind of barrier if we choose our questions tonight.
Again, I'll state what I said earlier, that I would like personally a couple days, even if, to come up with questions on my own right now, maybe by Thursday, or name a date, 2 days away from us, email them in, and we can just, if there's 15 questions, pare them down to 5, then maybe those 5 could be then emailed off to the candidates.
I guess, Ian, go ahead.
I'm not a big fan of like giving questions and a bunch of time for people to respond and figure out the best answer that they may or may not think the majority of the council is going to want to hear. Perhaps a generalized question, we can set it up for another meeting since not everyone was given notice, or that everyone will get a generalized question, and then perhaps each member of council is able to just conject something based upon that, and not really a debate, but just a live answer.
Sort of extemporaneously.
So I think maybe reverting back to what Trina and Paul kind of alluded to, is sending Kyle the questions that we have and kind of compiling. I guess my only concern is we're going to have potential duplicates and things like that, but I think Kyle's would probably be able to weed that out pretty well.
Yeah, I think if I have questions that are touching on the same theme or very similar, which, could happen, I would probably notify both of the people that submitted, and then have them, sort of maybe submit alternate questions, and have one of the questions go through if there was a close second or something like that. But yeah, we don't want to ask the same question in 5 different variations.
Right. Okay, Trina, did you?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I don't want the applicants to actually write a paragraph.
Right.
The purpose of emailing them the questions is just so they can come up with general answers, so they're not completely smacked out of the blue with a surprise.
I guess the way that I generally saw it, almost like an interview process, because I think it's going to be very difficult to choose between these 4 candidates if they all have, we're asking all the same questions, just like we would in any kind of interview process. I think we have to have some way to narrow this down, and I really just, I really appreciate everything that everybody put together, and there's actually a lot of information in here already about the very basic things. So I think if we can really, if each of us really spend some time and try to think of some good questions to ask, that maybe. My screen just went out. Oh, it came back. Okay. That really comes, or I guess really makes people dive a little bit deeper about why they want to be on council, and what their intents are with that position. So, Mayor Tom, you've been very silent. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work. Moving forward, I feel like what I'm hearing is that you need to bring this back to the committee of the whole, and you need to have questions that you've all agreed upon, and a format and how to ask those questions. What I really don't want to do is leave this meeting with the expectations that someone's going to get appointed in 2 weeks when we haven't figured out questions. If you have 5 questions for 4 people, we've got 20 questions that are going to be asked at a regular city council meeting, and then you have to figure out the nomination process, and I don't think that we're ready to do that yet with 4 candidates. I think it's a good problem to have 4 candidates.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree, and I wasn't necessarily, just with the lack of, people running and the lack of contested elections here recently. So I wasn't expecting that, so I'm very grateful for that. But yes, good problem to have. However, I think that we probably would have to have them come in for the committee of the whole, and then possibly then vote the following council meeting. Is that, or would we have a special meeting to appoint somebody or to vote?
We have the special meeting next week already. The other comment you made, are these people going to be required to come in person? I mean, you need to have that discussion. We have an older person that's not here right now. If someone is appointed, they may not want to come in here. That's a discussion that we need to be clear on, though. If you're expecting every candidate to come in here to the next meeting or not, can they?
I certainly wouldn't mind if they participated via Zoom or participated in person, whatever they're comfortable with, just as if they were on council. I think the same would extend to them outside, just the same way we have public comments from people on Zoom and also in the chambers. So that's my perception, and I see a lot of nodding heads, so I would be okay with either form of precipitation. Or, yeah. So,
Yeah, as long as they're able to participate. What's
yes,
the difference?
I agree. I might have phrased it to where it sounded like you have to come in here. So, but that's not what my intent was. So I guess consensus of council, do we turn in our questions to Kyle then this week and have him compile a list? Kyle, maybe you can send us an email back out with an update of how many questions we have, and if we need to, hey, this one sounds kind of like this one, or whatever we want to do in as far as updating that later in the week.
So process-wise, is it everyone is sending me one question, or we're compiling several questions and then choosing amongst the best? Or which process is it more preferable?
I was thinking 2 questions we each could come up with, just so that we can maybe, I think chances are we're probably going to have some duplicates in there. That way, at least we get that second round. Hopefully, we don't have too many people have both the same questions, but it's possible. But I think that's better. Paul, did you have something?
Yeah,
Sorry, Paul.
I also have something when Alder is done.
Yeah,
thank you. I was saying, if we only put in 2 questions each, with the possibility of duplicity, maybe don't put a limit on it. Just sort of like the going back to the butterfly part. Just come up, sort of brainstorm and maybe a limit or a maximum. How maybe like 5, but I know I'm just saying I don't want to put a limit or saying only 2.
I also like the idea of us putting 2 questions out apiece, assuming that we'll probably wind up just having 1 question used for each person.
Okay.
Once several people have the same question.
Attorney Johnson.
I think your process is getting very close to open records and open meetings problems. If you have a special meeting called for next Tuesday, it would be a good way to go about doing this is to submit any and all questions that you want to Kyle before Tuesday, and then you can review them on Tuesday in an open session of the committee of the whole and decide which questions you want to pose to the applicants. By going back and forth with all the emails, you're creating open meetings problems that you don't need to create.
Sure.
So echoing part of what Paul Johnson said, but also I don't know if it needs to be so structured. I think having each candidate speak and then allowing each council person and the mayor to ask them a question based on what they spoke. It doesn't have to be preformed. It doesn't have to be something we all agree upon. It doesn't have to be some magical question. We each ask a singular question to each candidate after they speak for a maximum of however many minutes, and that's it. That's how larger governments, much larger than us, function. Why can't we keep it simple?
Okay, that's another idea. Instead of just
Very
having
good idea.
premeditated questions, you ask just after that each candidate speaks, whether it's in person or via Zoom.
And you can do that next Tuesday as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that council, whether we wanted the process to be more formal or, whether we wanted the process to be less formal. I saw some head nods from over there. What is the will of the council?
That is the formal way that this happens in much larger forms of government.
He's
The appointment process? Are you referring to the appointment process, Ian?
In many forms of, in a lot of issues when there's multiple candidates or multiple things, whether it's for budget, whether it's for appointments, whether it's for a plethora of things, you don't have to have pre-formulated and pre-written questions. As soon as we start conspiring and formulating these things, and if we do start emailing back and forth, and then there's a lot of issues that come with that. It's much easier to just keep it simple. Each candidate speaks, and we each get a question. That's why larger forms of government than us.
Appointment is actually different than most, it is actually up to us how we decide how to do it. So there's multiple ways that we could do it. But I think, I like your idea. If you want to keep it more informal, it looks like I got a lot of head nods, that we can go ahead and move forward with that. If that's the will of the council, I don't hear any concerns.
I'm good with that.
Anybody else? Fine, okay. All right, that's what we will do then. So we will move that forward then to the next committee of the whole meeting, to where we can have some open discussion. And then I guess from there, we will vote at the following regular meeting?
Well, again, I think that's up to, kind of timing and how you think the approvals are going to go. And I just wanted clarity myself to know, so in 2 weeks, you're looking to discuss the questions, or you're looking to have the candidates here to answer those informal questions after making statements?
I think that we were all in agreement to having the latter, the candidates making statements and then us asking questions informally thereafter. And that obviously would be at the COW meeting where we could have the interaction.
Okay, and then the first meeting in July would be the formal city council.
Is council okay with that? Mayor Tom, you okay?
The part you have to put in there is what Paul suggested. If you are going to submit questions, there's got to be some sort of review process that you're involved in, which would be possibly after the special meeting next week.
But if we are not going to submit questions,
we're not doing any questions, okay?
That's what the council
okay
is. So if we're going to do it a little bit more informally, as Ian suggested, and the council seems to agree, so we're going to have each potential appointee just speak, whether Zoom or in person here at council chambers, and then we will informally each ask a question.
So each member of the council is going to ask each candidate a question, which would be a total of 24 questions.
Correct.
And how long does each?
I would say, should we limit that time period to 3 to 5 minutes? 2 minutes, very informal.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the amount of time that the 24 questions literally is going to be a lot.
Like, I'm honestly hoping they answer with like 2 or 3 sentences tops. I don't want a whole paragraph for each of our questions. It's just to get an idea.
And also, there's nothing saying that we all have to ask a question to each candidate. It's if we don't have a question for that candidate, or our question was already covered by a previous council person, we don't all have to ask a question. There aren't necessarily 24 questions. There's a maximum of 24 questions.
Mayor Tome? Go ahead.
I'm fine with being informal, but you want to at least give the perception that you're treating everybody fairly. You know, if I just decide I'm only going to ask questions to one candidate and not the other 3, why? You know, and that's just arbitrary, but I'm trying to, you know,
Paul, can you chime in, please?
Do you mind if I continue speaking or not? Sorry.
So, Ian, the mayor was not finished.
I'm trying to lay this out so I know what the expectations of the council and the candidates. I don't want to confuse the candidates if they don't know what's happening. So we're trying to make it so informal that we don't even really understand what we have consensus with right now. I don't know what we have consensus on. Paul, the floor is yours.
I think you guys are beating this to death. The idea of having each candidate with an opening statement and the opportunity of each alder and the mayor to ask one or more questions is a perfectly fair process. If any particular person decides not to ask a question, that's up to them. That doesn't mean that the person's being slighted, or that doesn't mean that that there's favorites being played. It's the opportunity to ask a question. You look at Clarence Thomas, he never asked a question. He's on the Supreme Court. So that's just a bad example, but that doesn't mean anything. So if everybody's given the same opportunity, that's really all that you have to strive for here. Your other option would be to basically have a special meeting to do this and give each candidate a half an hour or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever the case might be, to make an opening statement, and then you ask them questions, and then that candidate is done. That's your other option. That's still fair. It's the same amount of time. So as long as you have a process that gives everybody the same kick at the can, then that's really all that you need to worry about. And doing it at a meeting is going to take some time. That is true, but it's also the easiest way to do it.
Trina.
I suppose I like the idea of having the planned time limit for each candidate to be 10 minutes for their short introduction and just a really quick answer to each question. It's okay if it goes, 2 or 3 minutes over, but just to aim for 10 minutes, that sounds more doable.
I think we need to stick to a time frame to keep everything fair. We set a time frame. We strive to not let people go over it, and we just go on from there. It's a simple way to do things, and I can understand that a lot of you feel it's too informal, but it keeps things a lot more simple, and we avoid. I understand Mayor Tome's concerns about potential favoritism or things of that nature, but this actually avoids that. It's very simple.
Okay. I think, even if we did all ask 25 questions, it'll be about the same amount of time that we've had this discussion right now. So I'm okay with that process. the timeframes, aiming for 10 minutes, I'm okay with. I think the biggest thing that I really want to make sure is that we're going to have a clear idea of who the potential appointees are. We did get their submitted materials, so that is helpful. Obviously, hopefully you've reviewed them at this point, and that can also help you to form questions that maybe you would like to ask that potential appointee. So I think that's okay. I guess we have consensus then to move this forward to the next committee of the whole meeting, with the intent of inviting all four of the potential appointees to that meeting, or that this Zoom link, to have a short presentation and then a Q&A afterwards. Alder McCabe.
Would that be next Tuesday then, or is that in the future?
Kyle?
So I believe next Tuesday is a meeting that's sort of dedicated to the 2050 plan, and I'm not sure that's a great meeting to pair together.
Right. So it'd be the following Tuesday, which I don't have a calendar in front of me, the 16th. Okay. All right. Okay. Sounds like we've got consensus to move that forward. Let me find my agenda. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to number 8, review and discuss city tree removal by K&B Tree and Lawn Care. I believe we have Zach Naven here this evening. My papers are a little disorganized here.
Good evening, everyone.
And good evening, Zach.
So, as part of the discussions that took place last budget season, we do have quite a few trees in the right of way that are dead or dying. A lot of those are due to emerald ash borer and need to be removed. So a lot of our focus in the forestry world has been removing trees. And you'll see in the background here, in December of 2018, K&B Tree Lawn Care was awarded the contract to provide tree trimming and removal services for the city of Columbus during the calendar years of 2019 and 2020. Anticipating this larger number of trees that need to be removed, we did up the budget for 2020, and we have developed a list of trees that need to be removed. So that with that list, we have that broken down into 3 different areas. One is work that DPW can complete. One is work that water and light needs to complete because the trees are in power lines. And then the third is some of the bigger, trickier trees that are a little bit more than the DPW staff can handle, whether it's because we don't have the tools or it's just a little bit out of our range of scope of work. So with that, the contracted tree trimming budget will cover the cost of the tree removals and allow a buffer for additional trees that may need service due to events such as tonight. We do save some money for storm damage, so then we will use that up on the rest of the list towards the end of the year. The purchasing policy requires that the purchase of professional services in excess of $10,000 receive council approval. So here I'm recommending that this work be approved to help Public Works Department reach their goal of removing all the dead and dying trees within the right of way.
Okay. Questions, comments for Zach?
Might be the easiest thing we deal with all night.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm just going to say, let's move this ahead to the next regular meeting for approval.
Everybody good with that?
I have no concerns.
I see everybody's nodding head.
Yes.
Ian?
I'm still mourning.
Did we lose Ian? He's got his phone line there, but I don't know.
His phone is there, but his connection is gone.
I see consensus
We still have a quorum.
regardless, so we can go ahead and move this forward. If that's okay.
We won't have an expert opinion, but
Okay. All right, so with that, we're going to move ahead to, thank you, Zach, by the way.
Before you guys
Oh, yeah.
move on, just to let everyone know, we do have branches down in the city right now. Staff is out working on it.
Okay.
Any branches that are not blocking the people's driveways and are not considered a main access road will be barricaded off and left until morning to reduce the amount of time that my staff is in overnight. But everyone is aware of everything going on, and there are staff out in the field taking care of some of the issues.
Okay, is it pretty bad out there? Several areas, branches down?
Yeah, it sounds like we got quite a few branches down around the city.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. Have a safe night.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9 is review applications for alcohol license renewals for the licensing period of 7/1, 2020 to 6/30 of 2021. I'm going to start with the Class A fermented malt beverage licenses. There's a wealth of information in your packet and also updated information about some of the establishments that have updated fire inspections and things of that nature that was on our desk when we arrived. So I'm going to start with what was within our packet. We're going to have to kind of collaborate with the updates that have been placed on our desk this evening. So let's see here. First, let's start with liquor license new renewal. Okay, so this one is a renewal. It is, Cenex. Cenex convenience store. We're going to start with all the Class A's. Are these this update, Pat? Is this in any particular order of like? Because I guess I just don't. Right. But with this, yeah, with this update though as well, is what you're saying. What the new one that you put on my desk?
That is the one you got.
This one, because it has a mix of.
So that's not the, that's if.
This was what.
The one you received with your packet is everyone that was turned in an application.
Okay.
And in the past, you've reviewed the premise descriptions and looked at if there's any violations.
Sure.
Okay, so that's what you received with your packet.
Mm-hmm.
I did give you some updates to some things that have happened on Monday.
Sure. Which is mainly just fire inspections and things of that nature, correct? Okay, I was just asking, was there any particular order that these were in, but it doesn't necessarily look like it, because these are Class Bs. I was just trying to, as we're moving through these, to say, okay, well, this one had that update. Okay, so first things first, the Cenex convenience store. Do we want to go through this? I guess one by one is what we've done in the past, correct? I vaguely remember doing this last year. Mayor Tom?
I think we need to pick the one that has all the licenses in it, and is it that one then? That's what I'm trying to.
Right.
Make sure we all have the same packet.
This is the packet that was, yes, and it had the little post-it of cow number 9 on it.
Okay.
Okay, so that is what information was previously given to us. Now, all this additional information was essentially just updates to the ones that have had their inspections completed. That's, I guess, the only change.
Yep.
Between these two.
I took this off of my packet, so I'm not sure which
Oh,
one I
sure,
started
sure,
with.
sure.
So is it the one that has Walgreens on top or Landmark Services? So that's the
Landmark.
original one that came with the packet?
Correct, yep.
Okay, that's the one we should work off of then.
Okay, yes. Okay, so the Landmark Services Cooperative, which is the Cenex convenience store, is a Class A beer. I think one of the main things we were trying to review is just, you're looking at the premise description, and it doesn't look like anything has changed.
If I may remind you, you passed a resolution a couple weeks ago
Correct.
to keep all of the premises descriptions the same this year.
For Class
So they should
B,
all-
but not Class A, technically.
Right, but just to remind you when you get to
Yes.
that point.
Correct, that's, yep. Does anybody see any issues with Cenex? It's like,
This is for Class A as well, Walt. I believe you
These
spoke
first
that-
ones that we're gonna talk about are all Class A. So the license type requested is at the top.
Thank you.
Yep.
That one's still in need of the building and fire inspection then, the Cenex?
Correct, so it's not updated in the
Okay.
secondary. See, that's what okay.
That's what I'm trying to.
Okay,
Okay.
so but as opposed, and those are gonna be
is
updated. You
updated.
said they're working on getting out to those places. I think it's just an interesting time. Mayor Tom, did you have anything else? Or you
That
just-
one is updated, actually. It's in our updated packet, but it's the second from the back, yep.
Oh, second from the back.
Yep.
Okay. That's,
Okay.
okay, so that has been updated. I have no concerns, currently. Any concerns from council?
No concern, but I'm sorry, I misspoke before. I was saying Class A, but I'm saying there's Class B and, for like beer and liquor. I mean, is there, are we talking only beer or only liquor here? I mean, or is it just all Class A?
When, Class
You
A.
could have a combination. You can be a Class A, like a convenience store, and sell just beer. You can
Okay,
be a
'cause-
convenience store and sell beer and liquor.
Okay.
I think B, I always try to remember B stands for bar, so you're gonna you're opening and serving the beverage, I guess, whatever it be, liquor or beer. So, okay, no concerns with the first one, we're gonna move on. Chester Bandit Store. Doesn't look like there's any change to. Okay, and this one, the mayor tells me, has been updated as well with fire and building inspectors. I don't have any concerns. Initially, no concerns, okay. Another Class A is Dollar General Store on James Street. Doesn't look like they've changed anything about their premise description. Doesn't have any ordinance violations. We're checking on whether or not the updated with the, so past inspections from building inspector and fire chief. Are there any concerns?
No concerns. What are U-boats?
I've seen other, I think it's a merchandising thing. I've seen other descriptions use that as well.
Wasn't concerned, just curious.
Sure.
I imagine it was literal boats, but I wasn't.
Sure. Okay. Do we have Ian? I think we totally lost him. Okay. So we've got Quick Trip, Class A beer, so sales floor and behind the counter. Behind sales counter. Yes, it does. So it went from storing beer and liquor, so behind the sales counter, walk-in cooler, and office of one-story frame construction, and sold sales floor and behind the counter of the one-floor frame construction, to now behind sales counter, walk-in cooler, and office of one-story frame construction. Then the sales counter of the one-floor. So I'm trying to pinpoint here what's really changed, or if it's just it just looks like the wording, but it's updated there. The building chief, or the building inspector and fire chief, so it has been inspected and passed. I have no concerns with Quick Trip.
Yeah, no concerns. I'm just wondering if they meant to get rid of the word sales floor under areas
Right.
where it's sold.
Sales counter versus sales floor.
Yeah.
So I think that was just I don't think I recall them actually taking the transaction out on the floor previously. I think that they just kind of cleared that up. I don't foresee any issues with the language. Paul?
Are we talking, I believe, if I remember correctly, if you walk back by Quick Trip, they have like spotted cow on the floor, and it's, if we're saying sales counter and the floor, I think I see the confusion.
Oh, sure.
The liquor has to be held behind the counter. I
Sure.
don't think you can access that. You can go grab beer, but if you want liquor, it's behind the counter. Maybe that's what they're referring to. And it says sold behind counter.
See, I was thinking when they were saying stored versus sold, so. Right.
Yeah, I'm not concerned, just if it could be clarified.
And I believe their wine is out in the open as well, is it not? Okay.
Right. So, yes, where's sales behind the counter, walk-in cooler, and office. Okay, so, and sold is sales floor. I think this time around, they're just referring to where the liquor is actually purchased, and they're saying the sales counter, but I understand what you guys are saying. There's different spots within that we can have them update. And they've passed building inspector and fire chief? Okay. Pick and save. In their class A. Seems to have an update. So single story retail, grocery and liquor store with storage on the first floor of the structure. Then it's sold, sales on the first floor of the structure. Sales also taking place in the parking lot of the premises in the 2 exterior parking lot stalls, specifically marked and designated for online merchandise order and pickup service, and the pathway designated for online merchandise order and pickup service, and the pathway utilized to access these parking stalls as identified in the attached site plan. So that I don't think is being used right this moment. Maybe it is. I don't think that they were doing that during this whole COVID event because they had everything blocked off. But in any event, we did approve that last year. So you said they were updated? Yeah. Okay.
We just going to include the drawing from last year that they submitted again? Okay, excellent.
Yep. They do that. They have that here. Mm-hmm. In the. Okay. The painted crate. So this here's store shop space, sales floor, and display shelf or shelf display. And now it just says shelf display for both stored and sold. Not sure why the change there. I'm not familiar with that business, so I'm not sure what exactly she means. Store shop space, sales floor, and shelf display. Although, I mean, it seems as though it's actually more limited than it was before, so. Has that been, you're searching? Go ahead.
I don't see an update in the updated packet for the painted crate. Was she just wine last year or
Just
the first
wine.
year? So now she's going up to Class A liquor?
I think the problem was that it was unopened wine. So she was selling bottles of wine, was that, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it was bottles
And
of
that's
wine.
therefore why it was a different class of liquor, or liquor license, rather.
Well, yeah, we had some confusion because there's a Class C for wine, but that's for dine-in.
Correct, right. So I think the idea here, and maybe Attorney Johnson, you can clarify, but if you're Class B, you're serving open, you're opening the beverage and consuming it on the premises. But you would require a Class A if you're selling a closed product, like a bottle of wine, for example, or a bottle of liquor.
Right, I believe that Trina had it just right from last year. If you wanted a Class C wine license, that's to sell it by the glass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to sell bottles of unopened wine, there is no similar classification to sell unopened bottles, so that throws you into the liquor category.
Okay. All right. And we are waiting for building inspector and fire chief for that one. Let's see here. So we have Walgreens. everything's checked off as far as the building inspector and fire chief. Doesn't seem to have changed their, I'm reading through it, sold sales floor liquor behind the front register and sales floor. Beer is in cooler and a pallet next to cooler. Wine is in the aisle and 2 side panels, which has changed from looks like they also had 2-sided display in the drugstore previously, which now they do not any longer have. 2-sided display in the drugstore. I don't recall that 2-sided display in the drugstore, but I don't believe it's there any longer. So, and they have passed building inspector and fire chief. Okay. The Cardinal Cage. So now we're on to the Class B beer and liquor. So these are the folks that we did pass that resolution for, and we did state that we don't want. We asked that they not change anything about their present premise description of where they're storing and selling alcohol, just as a reminder to council. So it doesn't look like there was any change as far as where the liquor is stored. Mayor Tome, is there a inspectors checked off yet on that one or no? Still need, okay.
I have one question though, Pat.
Yes.
From my understanding, he was doing some work in the building while they were closed. I don't know if any of that required a building permit, but is that gonna affect any of the possibility of a building inspector or having to grant something with the contingency? I just didn't know if any of the work he was doing involved a building or permit. We should probably know that, just because I don't want that to get confusing, because he's not open yet, but if, we still do have that 60-day window as well, so if he wasn't done with the work, maybe we could just kind of defer that until
Sure.
whatever mechanism works best, but.
Okay. Next up, we have Cersei's. Looks like we do have a change.
They had a change, but they have that updated. They did get their
Inspection?
enforcement permit.
Oh, right.
So they did get the update, and everything is the same as it was last year.
Okay, that's right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I recall that.
With the updated, was just
Yep.
about that license with the encroachment,
Yep.
This is good that they're both running together on the same timeline, because it just turned
Yeah.
into a mess to have an encroachment with an alcohol permit, or, to serve outside. They need to be put together like this, so thanks for doing that work, Pat. Sounds like everything came together pretty quickly once you informed everybody, so it'll work out better now.
Okay. And the building inspections have been done?
Those are all done, yes.
Yes, okay. And I have next up the Columbus Country Club. We had a very extensive discussion about this last year, I recall. But it doesn't look like there's been any change for we requested. Is there any, have they been inspected or no?
Yes.
Okay. Columbus Family Restaurant, and looks like there's no change in the premise description or where it's sold. Sorry, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out. So have they been inspected? Okay. Let's see here. So Columbus West Travel Center. I do not see any change to their premise description. Thank you. He's been
Oh,
inspected. Trina has a
I'm
question.
sorry for the
Go ahead.
last one, for the Columbus
Yeah.
Family Restaurants.
Yep.
Looking for the one violations. So does that mean there was a violation on the 20, that found on the 21st, and it was checked
October.
again by the 28th, and it was good? Is that?
Where are you looking?
Police Department, where it says 5/21/2020, and then,
No. That should be none. That's when we turn it into police backgrounds.
Oh.
gotcha.
Okay,
So that's,
Kind of what I,
and then everything.
okay, good. I wasn't sure what that meant.
thanks. That's correct. Now, next up is the West Travel Center. So it doesn't look like there's been any changes to the previous licensed premise description. They have been inspected, you said, Pat? Okay.
Richard Shear? Which one are we on?
West.
Columbus West,
Columbus
yes,
West, yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, yep. Thank you. If there's any concerns, feel free to chime in. I know we have a lot of these to get through, but I'm trying to pay close attention and also get through this, so. Let's see, Fast Lanes Restaurant and Pub. No change to the previous description. Has been inspected. It needs inspection. Okay. Kestrel Golf Properties, Kestrel Ridge Golf Course, so, there's been no change to the, premise description, and they've been inspected and passed, okay. I have no concerns. Moving on then to the Kurth Brewery.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
As regarding Kestrel Ridge, I'm seeing
Yes.
golf carts on either side of Highway 89. How do you know that there's no alcohol being transported on Highway 89? Don't you take the golf cart over the road?
I believe that I have not golfed there myself.
Nor have I.
But
That's
I
why
remember this exact conversation from last year, yes, and it's a good question. I think there is a tunnel that it's supposed to pass through, so there's actually a tunnel that goes under the highway that is permitted, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. What's that?
Do we still have, I believe Ian is the 617.
Right. I am not sure if he can hear us. Okay, so we are at Kurth Brewery. There has been no change to the premise description. They have been inspected. Okay. MP's Town Tap. No change to the premise description.
I'm sorry.
ahead.
Can I ask a question again?
Please do.
Regarding Kurth Brewery, the front porch for the 4th of July, is that really not applicable anymore because we're not having the 4th of July parade? Are we still going to authorize outdoors drinking should that be amended or no?
I think technically speaking, I think they can still, yes, they can still sit out there regardless of whether the 4th of July celebrations are going on or not.
Thank you.
So MP's Town Tap, have they been inspected?
No, she needs one.
Okay, needs inspection. But there has been no change to the premise description. So pending inspection. Sue's Overtime Tap. Doesn't seem to be any change to the premises description. Have they been inspected, Pat?
No.
No inspection, okay. And then it also states just past due utilities and then past due personal property tax. I am not sure what we typically do about past due utilities. It looks like she has a very significant balance. That's due. Kyle, was that, do we know, I guess, is this like a result of COVID?
I think Pat may have
Or
more
have we-
information.
okay.
Preliminarily, I recall the discussion being that the bills, utility bills, stopped being paid in February prior to any restrictions related to COVID-19.
Okay. I'm not sure, I guess I don't know or like what we can do about past due utility bills. It seems $4,000 is a very large amount to be past due, so for that long. Mayor Tome?
It's the reason that it's on the list, because
Right.
we can ask that you either pay the bill or make some sort of arrangements, or to, but this is the one opportunity with the leverage of the license to try to get them current, even with the liquor distributor, but utilities part of the process.
I'm just confused as to why, I just got on the Water and Light Commission recently, but I guess I'm confused as to why, I understand during COVID, you can't turn people off, but I guess, I mean, so you said February and then, so, okay. So it was only about 1 month past due when COVID all hit, and then it's sort of accumulated since then? Okay.
That's my understanding. Pat, did you get a chance to follow up with Water and Light?
Pat, Mike, sorry.
I did talk to Water and Light. When when bills are delinquent, each account is sent a notice that they are delinquent.
Right. So, and I was just curious because when he said February, it kind of made me think it was farther back, but, so it was really only a 1 month behind, and then it continued throughout the, okay. But, yeah, I mean, that's just a significant balance, so.
I guess, like, I'm concerned looking at the utility balance. I mean, just looking at the 380 for the current month, the past due, that would be at least 10 months worth
Right.
of current utilities.
But I guess, I mean, but if you would assume that the 380 is when they've been closed, then, but yeah, I guess, I'm not sure how it would work out or why it's higher. Heating?
I believe last year there was a similar issue of a smaller amount,
Okay,
but then
yeah.
Water and Light entered into a payment agreement, and I believe they kind of gave us their thumbs up that they were comfortable
Okay.
by issuing, or that they had come to an agreement. And so that could be part of it, is that agreement continued, but then was never satisfied and has now kind of stopped altogether.
Okay, gotcha. Trina?
Yeah, I would really want to have a new agreement with Water and Lights. And I guess to find a little bit of the backstory about when and how things fell apart.
And I think that's something that you could probably talk to Water and Light about, because that would be their department. That's not, I really can't say any more than really what's here, because I don't have that information.
Sure.
And I think it'd be best to call Water and Light and get the background from them.
Actually, you'd be better off to do it a different way, I think. The lever that the city has is to notify the bar owner that they're in peril of having their license non-renewed unless they can get this issue squared away to the council's satisfaction, and then they have to go swing the deal with Water and Light. And Water and Light has to tell you that it's okay. Because I think that, like Kyle said, I think that's what happened last year.
Right.
And it's the owner's problem, and it's the owner's issue to resolve. And if Water and Light, in 2 weeks, when you're looking at this the next time around, if Water and Light says that there's been no contact and there's been no agreement made, then your decision is going to be to grant the license despite this, or to move on to the formal non-renewal process for failure to comply with the city code.
Thank you. That sounds very sensible.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I do think I recalled a similar situation with the smaller amount last year being the issue. So I guess that's what we'll move forward with. If everybody's comfortable. Mayor Tome?
So does that mean that we're asking Pat to notify this license holder that's, or I mean, how do we tell the
We're asking
license?
Pat to notify the license holder that
Pat
they're
should
going to have to reach
notify
out
the
to.
license holder.
Okay.
Yes, that they have to reach out to Water and Light and make arrangements because that's not necessarily our.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Look for a recommendation from the Water and Light Department that they feel comfortable with as well.
Correct.
I think the one difficulty in issuing these licenses every year is that I think Paul usually advises that you really can't put contingencies on licenses because once you grant them, if they decide not to comply with it, they've already got the license. And I think
it's
this is
for a
one of
year.
those. Correct.
Yeah.
And this is one of those situations which becomes very difficult. That's why it doesn't really matter when they started going past due or how much or for what reasons. This is the time that they have to try to clear it up. So.
Sure.
Yep, they've got 30 days basically.
Okay. And
That, do we know anything about the personal property tax portion of this, Paul? That they're.
I do not, but I would treat it exactly the same. I mean, it's the same issue with, this is with the city as opposed to the,
Water
as
and Light.
opposed to the Water and Light.
And a letter was sent out in February to anyone who was delinquent with their personal property.
No response. So.
It seems like a very low amount. I mean, is it like they paid most of it and just not all of it, or is that the
Didn't
full
pay any of
amount?
it.
So that $101 is the full personal property tax?
That's
Okay.
personal property, yes.
Okay. So yes, I think then we treat that the same way. Okay. All right. Moving on to Tequila's Bar and Grill. So we have an updated building inspector and fire chief inspection. We've got no change in the premise description. Everything else looks good. They've been inspected, so, yep, move that along. Yum Yum Thai Kitchen. Looks like, seems that the premise description is the same. Still needs inspection waiting, okay. All right. No other red flags are popping out, so just pending inspections there.
I guess I'm just curious. I've been there, but I don't, do they offer, they don't offer any mixed drinks? Just beer, okay.
Okay. All right. Got way too many papers up here. Okay. All right, if everybody's okay with that, we're going to move forward then to number 10, which is to review applications for tobacco licenses from 7/1 of 2020 to 6/30 of 2021. Good. Sorry, I've got way too many papers going on up here. I've got to get, all right. So that is- Here we go. It's tobacco licenses. So we have a list. Landmark Services, so Cenex Convenience Store, Chester Bandits Store, Dollar General Store, Quick Trip, Walgreens, James Co., which is the Cardinal Cage, Columbus West Travel Center, and Kestrel Ridge Golf Course. So is there any special, anything that goes into tobacco licenses that I need to know about as far as no special restrictions or inspections that you need to sell cigarettes or tobacco? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move this forward. I would imagine we'd have to pass it during the regular meeting, correct? Yep. Yep, next regular meeting, that's fine with me. And then number 11 is just to convene to closed session per state statute 19.85 sub 1 sub e, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss potential developments in the city of Columbus. I'll need a motion to move into closed session.
Alder Piper will make a motion to move into closed session.
And a second.
McCabe seconds.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second to go to closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I take a roll. Sorry.
Gray? We're going into closed session.
Gray is not.
Let's see.
He hasn't been active this entire
Ian, can you
time.
hear us? I unmuted your phone, but I don't have your video.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so we're taking a roll to go into closed session.
Aye.
McCabe?
Aye.
Piperone?
Aye.
Reed? Aye. Ryan?
Aye.
Tome?
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right, we are now in closed session.
I think we'll be disconnecting from this meeting.
Yes.